Welcome to the Ordinary Marathoner podcast.
Hello and welcome to the Ordinary Marathoner podcast. My name is Scott. I'll be your host today. It is Tuesday. It is July 2nd. We are 26 days away from Ironman Lake Placid. So time is winding down. Feeling kind of, you know what I feel like is I feel like it's been a long day. It's been a long time to get here. And now that these numbers are getting smaller and smaller, it's like, becoming more and more realized like, A, it's getting very close, and B, I just keep questioning myself, am I ready? Am I ready? What can I do still to make sure that I am? And I think now what I've been thinking about often is it's going to be painful. It's going to be a painful day. It is going to be a long, painful day. And I need to start mentally prepping myself for that. I need to start preparing for where's your brain going to be when things start to hurt and things start to break down, and you're on that bike course. And I got to tell you, especially at that first turn, that is where I DNF'd last year. I know the moment that my mind made the decision that it was over. It was at Whiteface Mountain. They had a little addition to the course. They had to make up. At the last minute, they changed the course. They added a little out. I think it was an out and back. It basically was the parking lot of Whiteface Mountain. To explain it, you're going uphill. You had to make a right into the parking lot. The parking lot was straight downhill. You go around, you go in the parking lot, you do a little loop, and then you come back up. And I remember going down that big hill into the parking lot. And normally you go downhill and you think to yourself, this is wonderful. This is great. This is fun. Let's see how fast I can go. Maybe it's time to hit the brakes. That's more my thought instead of how fast I can go. And instead of doing that, my thought was, oh my God, I'm going down this hill. I don't know how long I'm going to be in this parking lot, but as soon as I turn around, I'm going to have to go back up it. And the hill was steep. My estimate is that it was the steepest hill on the entire course. And the worst part about it was that when you got out of that parking lot and you got up that steep hill, you had to make a right. You were back on that uphill that you just left, finishing it off. So you went up a steep hill, made a right, still going up a hill. Now, unlike Mont Tremblant, I didn't have to get off the bike and walk then. I don't expect that I'll have to do it this year. And I did make it the first loop. The thought of doing it a second time there was just no way. And I was just so defeated after that hill that I knew at that point that there's just no way I was going to make the second loop. And I was cooked. I pulled my bike in after one loop, called it a day, DNF. I believe that they've taken the Whiteface Mountain out and back out of the course this year, and they made up that extra mileage somewhere else. Thank God, because whoever put that in there last year is the devil, and he should be dead. Let me entertain myself. All right, you know what? He should just be scolded. How about that? Oh, we'll dumb it down and just be scolded. But A, I'm glad that that's out of the course this year, but B, it's hard. When I actually finished the course, I remember there being a point right around mile 60 or so where I said to myself, like, man, this is just ridiculous. This sucks. It hurts. I don't want to do it anymore. Why do people do these things? Yeah, I kind of feel like I'm going to finish and then I'll be called an Ironman, but this is a long day of pain and torture. And so I'm doing it again. Here I am, year 3, doing it again. And so, I think about that. Am I prepared? How much pain am I going to endure? Is going to be? I'm sure it'll be less pain than last year. I'm better on the bike. I weigh less, but I don't weigh as low as what I'm not going to weigh as little as I did 2 years ago. But I wasn't as good on the bike. So how is that going to shake out? How is that going to relate to when the pain comes on? And how much do I have to prepare for when I come in that first loop? to have I'll call it courage, and that might be a little strong, but to have the courage to do another one, to do that all again. That's going to be my spot. And that's, so that's kind of been on my mind lately. And when I look at this 26 days to go, it's a little freaky. So yesterday's training, now we talked about this a little bit yesterday. I hadn't been doing a lot lately. I've been in Phoenix and all that stuff. And now that I'm back, I could look at it two ways. Either, my God, I got to catch up on everything because I haven't done anything lately, or, hey, this is a good opportunity to just kind of sit back and take a look and say, all right, I can do anything today. I could swim, I could run, I could bike, I could lift, I could do yoga, I could do anything. Those are kind of like my 5 things. So let's kind of analyze it and see what I wanted to do. I did the strength training early yesterday. I had a great session. Things are still improving. I think I had one kind of setback day last week after the race, but yesterday things are good. Strength training feels good. Everything's looking good on that front. Ellie had swim lessons at 5:00, so I went down a little early. I did some swimming, not too much. I should have gotten there a little earlier because I had to kind of take her in the pool through lessons, and so that was kind of like my cap time. But I wound up doing an 800 in the pool, and then I wound up doing a fast. I just kind of, I would say sprint, but it wasn't an all-out sprint. It was just kind of a concentrated on technique, really hard and pulling through and all that stuff. I tried to be very efficient for a 100-yard swim. Now, interestingly enough, I finished the 800. I looked at my time, and my average pace, which in swimming is usually done by 100 yards. So my average pace for 100 yards was 2 minutes and 13 seconds. Now, to kind of step back here and say, when I did the half a couple weeks ago, my average pace was 1 minute and 51 seconds. Now, the difference is here, right? In the open water, you don't have to stop every lap and turn around. You have a wetsuit on, you have a swim cap on. Both of them, I don't wear in the pool. I mean, some people wear the swim cap in the pool, but I don't. I'm wearing kind of almost like board shorts. They're Speedo brand, but it's like swim trunks. So that's a little bit of a lag. I'm not wearing the cap. I don't flip turn. I stop, I turn, I push off. The push off, that's something you don't have in the water, right? You don't have that push off start every 25 yards. Now, I've always questioned how long my pool is. I talked to a couple people that said 25 yards. I talked to a couple people that said, I think it's a little longer. It might be like 30 or 33 yards. Someone told me it was 33. Really, there's only one way I'm going to know, and that is by going and measuring it with measuring tape. I got to do that on my own. Bring it on my own. Because it's very hard to kind of judge your pace and judge, how fast you're going and how you train when you're not really sure what you're training on. Now, the funny thing was, the second part of the swim that I did, when I did the 100, my pace was 150. So it was very comparative, to my open water swim at Mont Tremblant. That being said, I was going really hard. There's no way I was exerting that much force in the lake. There just was no way. So something's up, something's wrong. I got to figure it out. You just want things to be kind of apples to apples when you're training, right? You don't want to be off. And I don't know. Today, I'm kind of in the same boat today. I'm going to try to get a run in, sort of like a medium, hopefully like a medium kind of distance, 6-7 miles. That's pretty much what I'm trying to do today. Maybe some yoga if I have time, but today's one of those days. Stephanie's in New York, and I'm just like pressed for time. So we'll see how that goes today. So I'm driving in the car yesterday. I'm telling this story to Sam and to Stephanie. I don't think Elliot really cared. She was in the car too. I'm driving down the road, and Stephanie we're talking about this, and Stephanie over time is like, "Wait a minute, it's an interesting story," and she's like, "Did you tell that story on the podcast today?" And I'm like, "No." She's like, whew, good, because you shouldn't tell that story on the podcast. Which means today we're going to tell a story on the podcast. So I kind of got to gear myself up for this one, guys, because it's controversial. It's controversial, and it might make some people feel bad. But it's an issue I think that we can tackle with, as adults. We can treat it with an adult spin. Don't want to belittle anyone or make anyone feel bad, but I think it's a topic that we can talk about and we can discuss, and we can do it in a probably a productive manner. That's what I'm approaching this with. And take it or leave it. Take it or leave it. You can tell I'm a little nervous to proceed, but we're going to do this. So it was the morning I'm flying out of Arizona, and I go to check in early, make sure my flight's okay, and it is. And I didn't have a assigned seat yet, so I was like, all right, maybe I'll check it out. And they charge you for everything these days, and they know that the aisle seat and the window seats, no one wants to sit in the middle, so they jack it up like it was $22 to get an aisle seat. But when I flew down from Arizona, it was actually from the flight from Hartford to Houston was like 3.5 hours. And when I got there, my back was killing me. It doesn't even matter. I just didn't want to be in the middle. I need to kind of have that little bit of extra room, or even the window. I like the aisle, but I'll take the window. I just don't want to be in the middle. So for me, $22 to get a comfortable seat was like, I hate that they do it. I really do. I feel like I don't like the way that airlines approach it now. It's nickel and dime you for everything. And it's also that they can kind of reduce their prices so that when you go on Expedia and you hit, sort by price, their airline comes up first. Then they charge you for everything else. And even worse, the poor people that they hire to have to deal with us because we're angry over their stupid charging over everything else. This is a different topic. But anyway, so I paid $22 for a comfortable seat. And for whatever reason, there was 9 groups that they were loading into this flight. And I'm always the last group. Whatever, I don't know what it is about me in some computer system somewhere, but someone decided somewhere that I am always in the last group of boarding, and that's where I belong. So I'm fine, whatever. I'm in group 9. 9 groups. So I'm there, I'm kind of looking around, and I'm like, all right, who do I want to sit next to here? Who am I hoping that I'm going to sit next to? And I'm kind of scanning, and I'm like, there's a dude with a little pet carrier with a cat in there. And I'm like, and I have a little cat allergy, and especially when I'm confined to small spaces with a cat. We have 2 cats here. But as long as I'm in open space with them, it's fine. It's like if I'm in a car with a cat for like a 3-hour drive, the allergy will come out. I don't really like when that happens. It gets bad. Like my face puffs up. I get teary-eyed and just my nose runs, and it's awful. So I'm like, oh, I really hope I don't have to sit next to the cat guy. There's a guy walking around with a tank top. Just a total, the back of his shoulders covered in hair. Just doesn't look like he's bathed in like 3 weeks. And I'm like, I don't want to sit next to that guy. Don't let me sit next to back hair, dirty, unshowered guy. That's what I think of before the flight. We're sitting there, we're a little delayed. And finally, it's like, all right, time to go, time to get on the flight, and going down the aisle. And I'm in the last group, so most people are already seated. And it's one of those where you want to just get to your seat, sit down, be comfortable, and be there for the rest of the flight. So you're walking down the aisle, right? And I'm 23C. Walking down the aisle, and I'm like, all right, trying to look forward and guess which row is yours. You're trying to count, but then, someone's always putting luggage in the top, and there's just things going on, and, in your mind you're going, how stupid are these people? No one can figure out how to board a plane properly. It just seems like something we should have conquered by now, right? It's like we've had the science to fly in big metal tubes for decades. But we can't figure out the best way to actually sit down in those chairs and to put our luggage in the overhead racks without having to check a gazillion bags. Not to mention the people that some of these giant carry-ons, you guys should be ashamed. You should be able to carry a carry-on, I think. That's the word carry. Just my opinion. And for the life of me, I don't understand why they don't just make little spots in the overhead bins that are the size so that everyone has like a little space for themselves, and then make the bags that space. Because without a doubt, and yeah, I know people don't show up with, not everyone has carry-on, but it's like, we got to figure something out here, people. Gate checks. It just takes forever to get people seated. So anyway, I'm walking down. I'm so on a tangent here. I'm walking down the aisle, and I count my row. There's an empty seat in the aisle. That's my seat. And as I get closer, I look, and the guy in 23A, I could tell he's staring out the window. Doesn't want any part of anything. He's just leaned over. I could barely even really see him. The reason I could barely see him was the guy in the middle. He was about 6'5". I'm going to guess 325. Big dude, broad shoulders, not like, and he's not like severely obese or anything like that. He's a big guy. He's just a big guy. And he's sitting there and he's got his elbows tucked in and he's looking forward. And now, mind you, I used to weigh 280 pounds. And I've had some experiences like this myself, where I've sat. Sometimes I don't mind buying a seat in the aisle or the window, but sometimes you're screwed and it doesn't exist, and the seat and the plane's full and you have no other choice. They put you in the middle. So I have been in the middle, and I had one lady sit next to me and call the flight attendant over and say, "I can't sit here. How do you guys expect me to sit next to him?" Yeah. Rude. And I've been on a train once when I was commuting to New York, and back then I wasn't 280, I was more like 240. But my shoulders are pretty broad, and sitting in these seats, there's only so much room. It's not my fault. And everyone sleeps on the commute, and I'm sleeping, and the lady elbows me, and in some kind of like weird German accent goes, "Can I have some Voom, please?" This is true. And the reason that I know, and this is how traumatic these things are, is when you're kind of a bigger person, like you remember these things. And I tell you, you could probably go on YouTube and find a whole bunch of videos of people who treat people absolutely horridly. I saw one about a woman complaining because, and then I've seen it go the other way too, where the person who's bigger and sitting there, they get out of control and they get upset and they get angry. I was never like that. I was always sort of ashamed, and I just kind of sat there and look, it's like, to a certain degree, I knew. I mean, look, for me personally, it's not for everyone, but for me personally, my weight was a controllable issue that I wasn't controlling, and it helped produce this embarrassing moment, which I always know when I was 280 and I went on the plane, I always knew that that's a possibility. And I flew a lot back then too. So I always knew it was a possibility, but I felt ashamed over it. I felt I didn't want people to sit next to me. I didn't want, I was very defensive about that. And, and therefore, when I walked down the aisle and I saw this guy sitting and really crunching his shoulders together, and mind you, when you're big, like it is not comfortable. And so for you to put yourself in an even more uncomfortable position and then say, look, I'm just going to sit like this for the next 4 hours on this flight, man, that is not comfortable. And so my very immediate thought was, my God, I paid extra money to sit in a comfortable seat, and this is my next 4 hours. And really that's what it was I sat there, leaned over in the aisle. I had my feet kind of over in the aisle. The cart ran over my foot once. I thought I broke a toe, and I'm going, Jesus, that's going to affect training. But there was nothing else I could do. My second thought though was, I've been that guy. Like, I didn't want him to see. I didn't want him to see me like make a face or roll my eyes or do anything like that would make him feel even worse than he already felt. I don't know. I don't know his genetics. I don't know his eating habits. I don't know his workout habits. I don't know his metabolism. I don't know that it's his fault that he's this big. He just looks like a big dude. He's 6'5". So apologetic when I sat down, and I'm like, dude, just relax. Like, it's okay. It's okay, you know? And then the flight takeoff, he's like, are you all right? I'm like, dude, well, like, he said, are you comfortable? He goes, are you comfortable? And I just looked at him and kind of smiled, like, how are we going to be comfortable here? Like, and we just laughed, and we had a laugh over it. I got up during the flight just to kind of give him, some space because he was just sitting there, and he's got his arm folded at some point. I put the armrest down for him. I said, dude, you take this, like, just take it. And he didn't even take it. He couldn't get his arm on it at the right. He was so uncomfortable for 4 hours, and I sat there thinking, like, geez, like, I was worried about me, being uncomfortable. And I just think, like, I thought back to some of these things that I've seen on YouTube and how people treat each other in these situations. And to a certain degree, you know what? The airline's going to charge you money, and you're going to expect a comfortable seat. That's what you're paying the money for. So there is a sort of a concern, a legitimate argument to be made where if they put you next to someone who's spilling over into your seat, I get that. I get that. And I think this day and age, unfortunately, the way we are is that the way this is all going to shake out one day is someone's going to sue someone else. There's going to be a lawsuit. The lawyer's going to make tons of money, and then policies will have to be changed. And then people will give a crap, right? But until that day happens, this is always a possibility. And I think, maybe it's because I've been there and I know how it feels that I had a little more empathy towards the situation and made the best of it. I could tell he felt bad. I could tell he was just, and we were talking later. He's telling me stories. His kid plays indoor football, and they're in a championship game, and he went to watch them, and I'm like, what? Who's it for somebody to say, like, he can't get on a plane and go watch his kid play football, play sports in a championship game? It's like he should be able to do that. He shouldn't be bothered. And whether, I don't know, because it's another thing too. What does the airline do? Does the airline say, hey, let's get your measurements here before you sit in the chair? And then if you're too big, you either got to buy 2 seats or they have to accommodate you with an extra one. Because they don't make those seats big either. They're trying to jam in as many people on those flights as they can. Trust me, they'd rather have like a whole entire kindergarten class on there paying full fare than people that are 6'5", 325. That's for sure. But it's an issue, and it's an issue that needs to be, not that it needs to be talked about. I just think that we need to have a little more empathy for everybody in that kind of situation. And look, I've been in situations where I've been at an amusement park, and it's like you go on the ride and you sit down, and then they try to put the thing, the restraint, and they either have to like jam it on or you can't. I've seen people get taken off of rides because they couldn't get, the roller coaster thing over their head and locked down, and it's embarrassing. It is, and I get it. It's embarrassing. It's just, and for me, I think all that was a part of me losing weight. Like, it was all part of, it all fed into that. What are you doing? What are you doing? You can't live like this. And seriously, I haven't, ever since I lost that weight, even when I was back to 240, like, I don't worry when I get on planes anymore. I just, whatever, is what it is. I know I'm a little bit bigger. If they put me in the middle, I don't worry. I don't care. I haven't had any kind of issues in 4 or 5 years. It feels good. It feels, but man, when I had this happen to me, it was, I felt worse for the guy than I did for myself. And then, you know what, even worse was the guy in 23A on the window. I didn't really see him until we got off the plane. And got off the plane, and he was actually on my connection flight too. It turns out he was pretty big too. I just couldn't see him. He was jammed in the corner for the whole flight. So basically, the airlines took like probably the 3 biggest people on the plane and lined them up and shoved them in one row. Is that their fault necessarily? Maybe, maybe not. Who am I to say? What else? What are they going to do? What are they going to do? Are they going to take your measurements when you buy the ticket? Do we really want that? Are they going to ask you for your weight? And then what if you lie? What if someone says I'm 125, shows up at 400? What if you lie? I would think that for me, this guy actually so he was saying he had the flight. I don't know if he thought he had seats or didn't, but he went to get his seats that morning, and the only 2 seats that were left on the plane were the middle seats. And he sat on one side, and his wife sat in the middle on the other. Now, there was probably a way that we could switch things up so that they could sit next to each other, which would have made things more comfortable for them. Like maybe she could have put her head on his shoulder or something like that. Like I wasn't going to do that. You put the armrest up, you can kind of spread yourself out. And I say this from experience, and get a little more comfortable, a little more cozy. I wasn't going to provide that level of coziness. Where's your hand between 2 pillows? Those aren't pillows. I don't know, but the problem for me was I didn't want to go and sit in another middle seat. A, because I paid for the aisle, but B, because then I'm a big guy too, and I don't want to infringe on the people that were sitting next to me there either. So unless someone else wanted to move, which I kind of thought someone might, I just wasn't going to be the one to do it, because the only solution I could have had was to make 2 other people less comfortable, and and then me uncomfortable when I paid for an aisle seat, and I wanted, and all of a sudden I'm stuck in the middle, which I would have been more comfortable in any other middle seat in the entire plane, more than likely. But so glad I paid an extra $22. The thing is that, and I kind of just wanted to approach this topic, number 1, because Stephanie told me not to, and number 2, because I think that there's an adult discussion to be had here. And I think the way we treat people says a lot. And I think there are a lot of other people who would have handled this a lot differently. Not that he was lucky to have me sit next to him, but some people would have really, really been angry. And I think we kind of have to think about how we would have reacted in that situation. How would you have reacted in that situation? Walking down that aisle, you bought an aisle seat, and then the person in the middle is 6'5", 325. How would you have reacted? I don't know. I was civil. I was good. I was in a good mood that day maybe. But I felt bad. I felt really bad. And, that's all I got for you guys today. It just, I guess, it kind of bothers me. It's one of those, it's a precarious situation. And you either kind of try to handle it as best you can with some sort of grace, or you be a jerk about it. So I just think that the next time you get on a plane, if something like that happens to you, try for the next few hours to be your best person. That's it. Be your best person, and don't make people feel bad. It's not cool. It's not cool. If there's anyone that I don't know how to make it better, I don't know how to fix the problem, I don't have a solution. But from both situations, I think the guy that I sat next to and myself, I think we handled it as best we could. And I think that that's the right way to do it. That's the right way to do it. Anyway, I kind of rambled on about this. I was trying to tread lightly. I hope I did a good job. I don't know if I did. I hope I didn't offend anyone. But if I did, I know, I guess I'd apologize if I did. I don't like apologizing when I shouldn't. But I understand how it feels. So, but I think it's a worthy topic. It's a topic of note. I don't have a solution. Don't have a solution for that. My only solution is to be civil with each other. That's it. And with that, gives me some little flashback moments to when I was bigger. So I have a little bit of empathy there. And with that, let's head on for the day. I'm kind of ending on a weird tone here today, but I got to get out and run. Jeez, this went on way too long today. I don't know. I felt, you know what? I think something about when Stephanie said, "Did you talk about that on the podcast?" Like as if I shouldn't or I couldn't. I just wanted to. So that's it. That's all I got for today. Remember, every day is an ordinary day unless you make it extraordinary. So get after it.
Remember to like our video and subscribe to our channel.